KORK North Bay, your source for news and happenings throughout the North Bay.
Hello and thanks for watching KORK North Bay TV. Coming up is our weekly wrap covering all of the news stories and happenings throughout the greater San Francisco North Bay. In Santa Rosa on Monday at about 2:45 in the afternoon, a man in a wheelchair was crossing the street at West College Avenue and Clover Drive. While he was crossing the street, a lifted white GMC pickup truck was stopped at the red light. When the light turned green, the truck accelerated before the man had made it across the street and out of their way, and he was hit. The two people in the truck, which was a man and a woman, got out and walked over to check on the man lying in the road, and then shockingly, they got back in their truck and took off, fleeing the scene, leaving the fatally injured man just laying in the road. First responders from the Santa Rosa Fire Department got there, but unfortunately the man was pronounced deceased at the scene. Investigators from the Santa Rosa Police Department took statements from witnesses and checked security camera footage, plus they used license plate reading cameras and were able to identify the truck and track down who it was registered to. On the way to the home of the registered owner, a call came in to the police department from a family member of the truck's registered owner saying the driver was with them and that he was ready to turn himself in. So the officers headed over to that house and detained the man without incident. The man was identified as 21-year-old Israel Sanchez, a resident of Santa Rosa, and the female that was with him is 18-year-old Fatima Bautista. Sanchez told police that he was the driver and that Bautista was the passenger, so officers arrested Sanchez on charges of felony hit and run causing death and did not arrest Bautista because she was just a passenger. But later on, after police had a chance to review more surveillance footage from the area and gather more witness statements, it was apparent that Sanchez was not the driver, and in fact, the 18-year-old girl was the one driving the truck at the time. So the next day, officers went and picked up Bautista and booked her into Sonoma County Jail on charges of felony hit and run causing death, and then recharged Sanchez for accessory to a felony. The identity of the deceased man has not been released yet. Our condolences go out to his family. On Tuesday in Santa Rosa, just before 10 o'clock in the morning, a rather unique bank robbery took place at the Chase Bank branch located on the corner of Farmers Lane and Sonoma Avenue when a bright blue-haired woman wearing a pinkish leopard print jacket walked into the bank and handed the teller a note saying to hand over the money or she would kill people, yet no weapon was seen or brandished. So, following bank protocol, the teller handed this standout woman the money, and then the woman just walked out as if she had just made a legal deposit or something. She was last seen walking away from the bank as if nothing had happened. Of course, the police were called, who showed up and began scouring the area, and about an hour later, they spotted her still wearing the same standout, or rather loud coat, and her bright blue Smurf hair inside the post office at Maxwell Village. So the officer went in and took her into custody without incident. The woman was identified as 32-year-old Sherilyn Hollingworth, a resident of Santa Rosa. Miss Hollingworth was given a ride to Sonoma County Jail, where she was booked on robbery charges. We'd like to add that no weapon was ever found. This story is yet another one that proves that the catch and release pattern that we see all too often in this state isn't working and in fact puts honest, law-abiding citizens in danger. On Wednesday at about 6:15 in the evening, several calls were made to 911 about a man assaulting a woman at the intersection of Mendocino Avenue and Pacific Avenue, so officers quickly responded to the scene and were given a description of the suspect as an adult white man wearing a black and white hoodie, so they began searching the area, and sure enough, not far from the scene, they spotted a man matching the description, so they detained him. He was identified as 28-year-old Liam Coling, a resident of Kenwood, who just 2 hours earlier was released from jail on pre-trial supervision. Now here's where this story takes a turn because this assault call wasn't the only one that came in about this guy. According to police, just minutes after Coling was released, he was walking down Mendocino Avenue and confronted another woman near a bus stop in front of the Santa Rosa Junior College, where he apparently threatened to kill her while holding a broken glass bottle up against her hip. The woman tried escaping this violent loon, but he continued to pursue her, so she tried making her getaway onto a Sonoma County Transit bus. In fact, Calling followed her onto the bus and continued to go after her until he was held back from her by a passenger on the bus and then kicked off the bus by the driver. Give that guy a raise. But this isn't where this guy's violent story ends. After he was kicked off the bus, Calling went on to approach a group of people on Mendocino Avenue at Pacific Avenue, where he began shoving a woman and then took off towards Nason Street, where he grabbed a big stick and smashed the windshield of a parked car. When the owner came out to confront Calling then threatened that guy as well before taking off again towards Mendocino Avenue, which is where police caught up to him and took him into custody. Calling was arrested and booked back into Sonoma County Jail on a number of charges, including assault with a deadly weapon, criminal threats to injure or kill, felony vandalism, violation of a court order, and of course, commit a new felony while on pretrial release, which didn't even take him more than a few minutes to violate. Maybe now they'll keep him locked up. We'll see. In the town of Healdsburg on Wednesday at about 10:30 in the morning, a resident on Powell Avenue called police to let them know that a car was parked out in front of their home that seemed a bit suspicious because it had two people inside who seemed to be under the influence of something, so an officer headed that way to check it out. A moment later, the homeowner called the police again to let them know that the car had just driven off with the passenger door open, heading towards University Street. So the officer headed that way and spotted the vehicle, stopped at the corner of University Street and Lincoln Street with the driver standing outside. So the officer approached him, which is when the man got back in the car and took off at a high rate of speed, heading up University Street. While making his getaway, he crashed into several parked cars, but was able to keep going for several blocks. Finally, at the corner of University and Piper Street, the driver crashed into a street sign, which brought the car to a stop. But the driver wasn't ready to stop yet because he jumped out and took off on foot, heading towards Recreation Park, where a baseball game was taking place with the Redwood Empire Baseball League, which is a league of people that are 72 years old and older. But don't let their ages fool you, because they're still athletes competing in sports, many of which are in better shape than people half their age. Well, those players, along with their umpire, saw the crash take place and the driver get out and take off on foot. So they jumped into action and apprehended the guy and then held him for the officer. The man was identified as 20-year-old Jonathan Espana, a resident of Windsor, who was taken into custody. Still inside the car was the female passenger, who wasn't identified because she was only 14 years old and was also under the influence of something, so medics were called to evaluate both her and the driver. The 14-year-old girl was transported to the hospital for further evaluation, and her parents were notified. Officers determined that Espana had provided alcohol to the girl in order to have sex with her when they were parked in front of the home. That vehicle was also found to have been taken by Espana unlawfully. According to more information that detectives gathered about the pair, it was apparent that the two knew each other, at least for a short amount of time anyway, and that the girl had gotten into the car with Espana after he catcalled her while she was walking down the street the previous day. Espana was booked into Sonoma County Jail on a number of charges, some of which I'm not going to say, but let's just say there was enough evidence to charge him with statutory rape, plus other things that he allegedly done with the girl before the homeowner called the police. He was also on probation for a previous DUI incident, among other things. In southern Napa County on Tuesday, just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a motorcycle was heading eastbound on Highway 12, heading towards Cordelia. That stretch of Highway 12 is also known as Jamison Canyon Road. Just past East Kelly Road, the rider was splitting lanes, passing between cars, when he crashed into a black Honda that was in the right lane. Both the rider and his female passenger went tumbling down the highway, which unfortunately, the female ended up in front of a passing car and was run over, causing fatal injuries. The rider sustained major injuries and was transported by a CHP helicopter to Queen of the Valley Hospital in Napa. The drivers of both vehicles involved did stop and fully cooperated with authorities. I'd like to note that the only state where lane splitting is legal is California. There are 5 states that allow what's called lane filtering, which means a motorcycle can legally pass between stopped cars or slow-moving cars. Those states are Arizona, Utah, Montana, Colorado, and Minnesota. In the remaining 44 states, lane splitting or lane filtering of any kind is illegal. In Rohnert Park during the wee hours of Wednesday morning, just before 2 a.m., A CHP officer spotted a vehicle heading northbound in the southbound lanes of Highway 101 near Golf Course Drive. A call went out for backup to assist in getting this extremely dangerous person stopped as quickly as possible before a horrific head-on collision occurred. So the officers jumped on the freeway when the driver got to Todd Road, and they were able to head him off and get him stopped. Thankfully, they were able to stop him before a potentially deadly crash occurred. The man was identified as a 21-year-old who had already had 2 prior DUI convictions and was on probation with a suspended license. He's now facing more DUI charges, including yet another DUI, plus driving on a suspended license and violation of his probation. In the town of Sonoma during the wee hours of last Saturday morning, just before 3:30 a.m., a group of people gathered at the Broadway Shell gas station located on Broadway Street, which is 1 block south from the town's plaza. Seeing the group, which looked a bit suspicious to the night teller working the station that dark early morning, she decided to call the police to come check on what was going on. As soon as an officer showed up, the group broke up and one of them got into a silver Hyundai and drove off, so the officer went after it and a chase was on because the driver of that Hyundai wasn't stopping. As they headed towards the plaza, the Hyundai hooked a hard right onto East Napa Street and then a hard left at the next corner onto First Street East, where he then blasted past the plaza and up the street where First Street East ends with a 90-degree turn onto Blue Wing Drive, but he couldn't make the corner, so he ended up smashing into a parked car, which ended the chase. The officer apprehended the driver, who didn't appear to have been injured, and took him into custody. It turns out that the driver was only 15 years old and the car had been stolen out of Napa that same evening, but hadn't been reported stolen yet because the owner was still sound asleep like pretty much every other normal person would be doing at 3 a.m. in the morning. Inside the car, the officer found burglary tools, including a screwdriver that was stuck in the steering column where the ignition key is supposed to go, plus other items, including a flashlight and a pair of gloves, which were believed to have been used when the car was stolen. The identity of the driver wasn't released because he's a juvenile. Thankfully, it was that early in the morning, so no one was hurt or worse as he sped through the town's plaza area. This broadcast is sponsored by Mike Larbury Automotive, 5-star ratings for all of your domestic and import automotive repair needs, located on Highway 12 in Sonoma. Mention you saw them here on KORK TV to receive a special discount. And also by Sonoma Paint Center, your source for all of your home and automotive paint and supply needs.
Transform your home or business with Sonoma Paint Center. As your local Benjamin Moore retailer, we've got everything you need to paint inside and out, plus top quality stains. Step inside our Santa Rosa location or visit us in Sonoma, Sebastopol, and now our newest location in Napa. From vibrant colors to durable finishes and required supplies, we'll help you bring your vision to life. Sonoma Paint Center, serving you in Santa Rosa, Sonoma, Sebastopol, and now Napa. Sonoma Paint Center, color your world.
Well, that's it for our weekly wrap. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We'll see you again on Monday for our weekend wrap. Remember, you can watch us on our website at KORKTV.com or on our YouTube channel. Just search for KORK North Bay TV. And if you watch us on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to us. We'd sure appreciate it. We'd like to wish everyone a safe, happy, and healthy weekend. Thanks for watching.